tell me how you train people to get reps in. Yes, stay in it, but I know you talk about scripts being a trap, right? Memorization is a huge no-no in ultra speaking. So if you're not writing a script, how do you prepare? How do you get those reps in?
We use something called the accordion method, which is a format for rehearsing your talk or your presentation without memorizing and without writing anything down. And the premise is really simple. If you have a 10-minute presentation, can you try a 2-minute version of that? And you might go, wait, a 2-minute version, there's no way I can fit it all in. Well, exactly. Something's got to go. In fact, a lot of things have got to go. But what remains in the 2 minutes is interesting to discover. And as you go through a 2-minute version, maybe even shorter, a 1-minute version, maybe a 30-second version, you discover that what remains is what's most essential to your presentation. That's what we call the one thing. So if you only had 30 seconds to tell everybody in the audience what you want to say, what would it be? It's a really helpful exercise to go through. We call it the accordion method because we compress time, but then we do multiple reps where we expand it back. So we'll do a 2-minute, a 4-minute, maybe a 6-minute, an 8-minute, and then back to a 10-minute version. Each time that you do a rep, there's really only one rule: stay in character. Because you're teaching your brain to improvise within whatever time constraints you have. So imagine you're going on a, imagine you're asking your boyfriend or girlfriend for their hand in marriage. And you go through a 60-second version of that, and halfway through you're like, oh no, that doesn't sound good. And then you do a 2-minute version of that, but halfway through you're like, no, let me start over. If you continue that behavior, you're going to go into the actual thing without any trust in yourself, because every time you've given up. If you're able to do every rep and no matter what, you find your way to the end, then by the end of the accordion method, you've said the same thing in 10, 15 different ways, in 10 different 15 time constraints. What's really cool about it is you start to internalize your message and you start to connect some of the patterns, like, oh, I've always said this story, but I've said it in 15 different ways. The bottom line is that your message and your script becomes natural. You don't need the right words. You kind of know the general flow, but each rep forces you to improvise in some way so that when you get up on stage or when you go on that date or when you go in front of the board, it's conversational, it's natural, it's unscripted. Why? Because you've trained that way. And that's so beautiful, because people are going to say, wow, it was almost like you were so spontaneous. Well, it's because you practiced for spontaneity. So those are the most valuable reps you can put in when you have some event coming up that you want to prepare for. Practice through speaking and change up the time constraints.
If what you've heard on Flow Research Collective Radio has been helpful, please consider doing us a solid and leaving us a review on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you are listening to this. Reviews help us connect to a wider audience so we can get these peak performance principles out to more people.